Hello and welcome to our very first video for the weekly video tutorial series. Today we are going to learn how to make the background that I did here, the Woodgrain background. Many of you requested a tutorial and I thought I'll just go ahead and show you how to make this really simple and beautiful looking background. So let's just get started. Before I start, I want to say that I'm new to making videos, and as of now I haven't been able to figure out how to place my camera so that you can have an upside down view and see it from my angle instead of the opposite. So till I figure it out, please bear with me. And I hope it won't be a problem. You'll still be able to see everything that I do here and still be able to make out how and why. And if you have any questions, you can always leave it in the comments and I'll make sure I answer them all. So let's get started. So today I'm going to make I'll be making a long card. I don't know why, but I love these 9x4 cards, and they have something elegant about them, which I really like. So we are going to make maybe a little sister card to this one. Okay, we are gonna follow the same color scheme and a similar design pattern. Okay, so let's get started. I already have my cardstock scored and turned into a card, which I'm going to just place aside for a while now. What we're going to work on is the layering part, where we'll have our background, which will fit perfectly onto this. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so today I am using the Woodgrain stamp from Skipping Stones Design, and basically any Woodgrain stamp would work for it, and I think every stamp company out there has at least one Woodgrain background stamp available. Hero Arts, PTI, and I think there is one from Penny Black as well. So you're free to use any Woodgrain stamp, and I think it'll work great with any of those. So I'm gonna use this one here. Okay, and before I start, I'll put a scrap piece of paper so that I don't spoil my cutting mat. Okay, so I have my stamp already mounted on the block. This is a fairly big block because I am low on blocks. I have just two, so I have to make do with whatever I have. And the next thing you'll need is brown ink. I'm using Geneva Arling dye ink, and it's a great ink. I love it. But you're free to use any other ink, chalk inks or Memento or any other brown ink, which gives a good impression. So I'm just gonna go ahead and ink up my stamp here really nicely, and making sure that it has a good coverage of ink. And then I'm just going to go ahead and line it up and press it down. And there you see you have the Woodgrain impression. So what we are going to do now is just line up and repeat this stamp pattern here. Again, line it up, and since it's clear, it's easier to line up and make the impression. It's always better to stand and stamp, because that way you can apply even pressure. Right now I am sitting on a chair, so it's a little difficult for me to stamp, and you can see my stamp wobble and leave marks. But you can stand and stamp, and make sure that you can see that pattern growing here on the cardstock. And I'm just gonna go ahead and continue with it. A lot of you also requested tutorials and tips on stamping, so I guess videos are a great way to watch and learn. And I hope the video series here will help you learn and get better at stamping. And since it's a wood grain stamp, it need not be perfect. It's okay if you overlap bits and pieces here and there, because that won't really matter. It is still going to look as natural as it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp it right here. Okay, so there you have it, and I'm going to go ahead and add this parts here which I missed before. Okay. And so that is why I use a scrap sheet, because I always almost mess up. I'm just using a regular paper towel. I'll clean it up. Since it's a dye ink, it gets off the stamp really nicely, and it doesn't stain the stamp as much as chalk inks or pigment inks do. So there you have it. We're done with the stamping part. So you can see that we have a sheet that has a beautiful wood grain pattern stamped on it. The next step that we are going to do is we are going to take this raw sienna ink. I'm using Unity's, and that is because I don't have a lot of colors in distress inks. But if you have wallet stain or a tea dye ink, maybe you can try with those colors as well if you have distress inks. But otherwise this color raw sienna, it's one of my favorites, and it adds really wonderful texture and that vintagey look. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this. Okay, I have a blending tool here, and if you do not have a blending tool, you can always use the regular sponge. I recently bought it and I love it, but sponge works as well, so that's just fine. And now we'll just take some ink on the sponge. We'll make sure it's not too much. We want a very light coating, so we'll just go and rub off over our stamped part. Since it was dye ink, it dried off really quickly. But if you are using any other brown ink, say pigment ink or something, you need to let it dry for a few minutes, or maybe heat set it. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go over and rub this ink all over my stamped pattern very lightly. I don't want a very dark effect. I just want to cover the white areas on my cardstock and give it a look that that real wood grain look. So it has started looking good now, and just gonna go ahead and continue doing that. I'm not blending or anything, I'm just applying ink to the stamped areas just to cover up the white behind it, because we don't want a white wood grain. covering up the areas that are left here. Okay, so I think we have covered all the white. And now once we have done that, we are going to just go ahead and make it a little darker along the edges, just the edges. Okay, so here we have it, a beautiful background pattern which will look really great and cool on our cardstock here. So before I do that, I want to make my edges a little bit more darker, so I'll just use my Jenny Balling dye ink. Although it's a dye ink and not a distress ink, it's actually great for coloring and, you know, adding the, in fact it works with embossing as well, heat embossing as well, so I really like this ink. Covering your edges with a darker color helps it to stand out on the cardstock, and it just pops up and it looks beautiful. So that is what I'm going to do here today. You see, most of my ink is on this scrap piece of paper because I want very little on my cardstock, and it's always better to have little ink because you can always take out, you cannot take it out once it's there. So there you have it. Okay, and that makes for our beautiful